Hey, just about to start a live Q&A. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And we're going to talk about wellness, as always. We're going to talk about lifestyle medicine, talk about functional medicine. We're going to talk about the Black Women's Guide to Health, Hormones, and Longevity. So we're going to talk a little bit about all of that right now. I'm just waiting for Chatela to join me so we can, have a little chit chat. But if at any point anyone has questions, I am here for them all day today. Did it work? Oh, there.
Hello.
Hey, lady. Oh, look at you in the glasses. Yeah.
You like them?
Are they prescription or you just want to be cute?
No. No, they are
That's
not.
me and my glasses too. I wear my glasses just to be cute.
I actually have like perfect
Look at
vision. So.
Okay. So today we are talking about we're going to talk about the Black Women's Guide, right? So we're going to talk about what it is and why it's so important that people participate in their own health, and how we've created a program that helps people prioritize their health and their well-being. So I'll start with asking you a question. So tell me, why do you think people prioritize or don't prioritize their health? Why do you think that people who are seeking out to be healthier, what do you think limits them from being able to optimize their health? Once you're unfrozen, you can answer that. Uh-oh. I don't know if I'm also frozen. Oh, okay. Okay. There you go. Oh no, you're still gone. We're going to get you back in here. I feel like you're on, Chatela, but I can see you, but clearly. Well, I will start off anyway. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Hey, Mark. I'm just waiting for my health coach to join, because we are going to go live in just a second. Oh, did you mean to ask it? I'll go live with you, Mark, while I wait for Chatela. No. Hey, Mark, did you try to go live with me? You didn't want to go live with me?
Yeah, I thought I'd check you out, but I don't want to necessarily be anyone who interferes with your flow.
Oh, no worries. I was waiting for my my health coach to come on, but I think she got frozen out. Frozen out,
yeah.
Frozen out. So so I just do my lives every week with my health coach because we want to talk a little bit about my program.
Okay. All right.
You know about my program, don't you?
I do, and Sunita's ready to sign up, and I think you had Adrian involved, so it's a family affair from that perspective.
Yeah. Tell Sunita, tomorrow is the start date. I mean, not tomorrow. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 6th. Yeah. So, but I think she's going to start in January. Yeah.
Right. Oh, did you hear her? Wow.
I heard her.
Okay.
We already discussed it.
Okay. All right. I might drop, sis. I'll let you guys do your thing. I guess this is a hello, and I wish you luck with this, and I'll just be in the background.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I don't even know how to do it.
No, neither do I. I'll figure it out. Close that. Let me just do that.
Oh, there you go, Chatela. All right. I was sitting there, I was talking to my brother.
Hey, no, that's great. I don't know what happened. It just like closed out. Every
That's
time
right.
I get on here, it just doesn't like me. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, yeah, so what do you think, what are the biggest barriers to people actually like doing stuff about their health? Like, why do you think people, you know, people want to be healthier? Why don't you think, just from your experience, people, why don't they make that jump?
Well, I think it's knowledge. I think it's the educational component. And I think sometimes people sincerely feel like I'm doing all the things. I'm eating healthy. I'm going to Captain D's and I'm eating fish. You know, I'm going to Chick-fil-A and getting their salads. So like they really truly feel like I'm doing all the things. This should be working for me. I'm all set. And so they don't understand, I guess, when things start going wrong, where the disconnect is. So I think the educational component is big, but then also too, when you start factoring in social media and TikTok said don't eat rice because it'll give you cancer, or the Pop-Tarts, you know, they're going to cause you to have kidney issues, like all this craziness, or just drink some water with cayenne pepper and it'll burn the fat in your belly. And people are really trying these things, you know. So I think when you combine all of that a lot of times that's the issue, like just the educational component. And two, maybe like not the awareness, but maybe the desire to acknowledge that, hey, something might be wrong. I think sometimes people are worried, but they don't want to take that next step to actually investigate, to see, okay, let me see what's actually going on in my body, because maybe they find something that's scary. Maybe they find out that they do have some health diagnosis and they just would rather kind of out of sight, out of mind. You know?
Yeah. And so I was thinking of a couple of things when you said that. First was that a lot of people do feel like they're doing all the things, right? And I mean, even, I mean, we get this all the time. Like, I eat really healthy, I'm doing all the things, but it's not working, right? And that's the thing that gets people. I always tell people, you know, there's more than one way to get to the end, you know, goal, which is whatever your end goal is, whether it's to lose weight, whether it is to just be healthier, if it's to feel better, if it's to battle a chronic illness. There are multiple ways to do that. There isn't one right way. However, what I oftentimes see is that people are doing things that aren't working, and then they give up because they feel like they've done everything. And because they've done everything and it hasn't been working up to date, then there's nothing else to do. And I think one of the things is around the educational piece is that letting people know, absolutely, you haven't done everything. I haven't met anybody who has, well, I'm not going to say that. I've definitely met people who have done a lot of things. They've tried lots and lots of different things, and still have issues. And sometimes that requires a deeper dive, you know. But for the majority of the people, my experience is that people haven't done everything, and there is still so much you can do. And I also think, and this is, you know, I brought this up because it's been on my heart for such a long time, it's how people think about their health, right? It seems to be, at least my experience is that health is oftentimes in the background. It's like we think and I don't know if I want to say it like this, but oftentimes we think we're entitled to health, meaning that if we just do what we're doing, we're supposed to be healthy. And then if things go wrong, if I'm not healthy, if I do develop an illness, if I'm having problems losing weight, then it's something outside of me that is causing it, right? Like, I did everything. I lived my life. I ate, I moved, but it's something outside of me, therefore controlling my health. There's not something that I could be doing different that could actually have an impact. And that's the part that I think is really where you start, right? You have to start with understanding your power in your health. And I think once people can have a better understanding about what they can do to improve their health, then you can move on to the next step, which is, okay, what do I do, right? But if you don't have a sense to begin with, that you have power over the way you feel. You have power over how your hormones behave. You have power over the diagnoses that you might be given. If you don't have a sense of your power in that, then it doesn't matter what I tell you, because you might give it a half-hearted effort. And then when you don't get the result that you're looking for, then you give up. Does that seem to ring true?
Yeah, and what that made me think of is it is a lot of mindset for people, because I think what we don't realize is how ingrained this is sometimes, that it's just learned behavior. At the end of the day, it's learned behavior, and with any behavior, it takes intentionality, as we kind of touched on before, to change your behaviors.
Yeah.
And the first step is kind of having that awareness of what is actually going on. So if you never get to that space of awareness, then you can never even get to the point of, okay, let me actually do something about it. Now, it also made me think about those people who are like, nah, I'm going to get what I want. Like, what's the point if I'm going to have diabetes? At some point, I might as well eat the fried chicken now.
Right.
What am I eating carrots and salads and stuff for now? So those are, a special group of people who are going to...
Yeah. That's the
anyway.
YOLOs. The YOLOs. You only live once. I'm going to live it to, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. And listen, I'm not opposed to that. But here's the thing. Like, I'm totally about people living the way that they want to live. The question is that, like you said, a lot of it is just indoctrination, right? So a lot of the things that people think they want, they only want because they're used to having it. It's not like you are ingrained with needing to have eating a certain way or moving a certain way. Like all of that, like you said, is taught behavior. And the reason why I brought this question up in the beginning was because as a physician who's been working with people to try to change behaviors for a healthy lifestyle, I realized it's not easy to do alone. It isn't, because these behaviors are so ingrained, right? It is, you have a thought process around your health, you have a thought process around what you actually can do to improve your health, and then there's the misinformation about what will actually work versus what won't work. There's the variability between what works for one person which doesn't work for another person. So there's all these factors that are playing into how a person might approach improving their health. And so because you have all those factors playing a role, the question is, okay, so should you just give up? Should you just be like, well, there's nothing I can do? Or is there a better way? And there absolutely is a better way. And part of the mission for me was to introduce people to that better way, right? To give people a sense of clarity around what they can actually be doing, giving people structure, because with behavior change, it's a wild, wild west. There's so many different things you can do, and there's so much, there's so many different approaches and conflicting information, that really having structure, particularly for a person like me who tends to need structure, I wanted to create a program that addressed both the mindset but also the behavioral piece of it, and community, because community is also where most of us learn how to eat, sleep, move, manage stress. All of the factors that influence health, we learn them in community. But when we want to change our behaviors to match the outcome that we're looking for, which is to feel better, to look better, to age better, to not suffer with illness, we want to do it outside of community. We want to do it privately. And I get that. But to really make long-lasting change, you have to recognize that all of this happens in community. Yeah. And the other thing is that there are no quick fixes, right? There are some quick results you can get, right? So even in our program, you can lose quite a bit of weight or resolve your symptoms pretty quickly. But as far as a fix, that is a more long-term thing. And so you've really got to have the resources to be able to maximize the outcome that you're attempting to look for. Does that make sense?
It does, and part of it is the convenience factor. That's what we were talking. I was thinking about that too. Like everything now is so right now.
Right.
You don't really have to wait on anything anymore. You don't want ads. You just pay for, upgrade your subscription or whatever. Everything is just on demand.
Yeah.
And so that also is, I guess, a part of that mindset too, that even with our health, that it should be convenient. It should be easy. So when you have to try, when you have to put in a little bit of effort, when you have to set aside time to meal prep and go out of your way to have the healthier option, then it's like, nah, I don't have time for that.
And it also makes it, what's crazy about this is that it's if you ask somebody to do that, it's like you're doing the most, right? Like just like nobody has time for it, but it's also doing the most. Like I should be able to have the health that I want without putting forth any effort. And we get a lot of pushback from people on that. It's like, I don't cook, I don't do these, all the I don'ts. And that's obviously, listen, there are probably a lot of things that we don't do that we could do. I'm not going to say should, but that we could do that we're just not going to do. So we have to find workarounds, right? We just can't be like, well, that's not what I'm not going to do that, so I'm not going to do anything, right? Because then we're not going to get the outcome that we're looking for. We all have the outcomes that we're looking for, whether that's I want to reduce my blood pressure, or I want to control my diabetes, or I want to lose 20 pounds, or whatever your health outcome is, there is a solution, but that solution does require some it requires an approach, and figuring out what that approach is for you is really where the key is. And one of the things as a physician that I realized is that in the way that conventional medicine is practiced, we don't give people approaches. We give them medications, and medications are useful when they're useful, but they're not useful for long-term sustainability and life transformation when it comes to your health. And so if the goal is to transform your health, if the goal is to age better, if the goal is to feel better, if the goal is to look better, then the only solution requires taking a deeper look in how you get there. It doesn't have to be the same for everybody, but it does require something, right? It doesn't work like pharmaceuticals, right? And I get this a lot, particularly around weight loss. It's like, because there are drugs that will help you lose weight, right? There's a question. I love a question.
Right.
So thank you, All Things Des. Should we fast water only fruit every year? Is it beneficial to our health? Okay, so that's a big question because I have lots of answers for that. So the word fast is used very ubiquitously, and it can mean a lot of different things. But you specifically said water only. And so yes, a water only fast has tons of benefits for your health and also for your longevity. And so doing a water fast would be great, but it is very prohibitive for a lot of people because it's hard to do a water fast. So I wouldn't jump to a water fast if you've never done a water fast. There is something out there called the fasting mimicking diet, which allows you to get the benefits of fasting, but still eating something. And so I do that a lot in my practices. The fasting mimicking diet, as I help people go through that. But the health benefits are undeniable for like a water fast. Now, the fruit component of that, so there's water only fast, and then there is fasting where you are eating certain foods that don't trigger your body to recognize food, but typically fruit is not one of them because fruit has lots of sugar in it. And even though fruit is healthy and it has nutrients in it, if you're trying to get the benefits, sort of the longevity benefits of fasting or the health benefits of fasting, I would not recommend doing fruit only, fruit and water. You really need, because one of the things that is vital for a fast to be effective for the purposes of health is to make sure that your body goes into ketosis and not breaking down sugar. And so even though fruit is healthy forms of sugar, that's a whole other talk. I need to stay off of that. But even though fruit is healthy, it is not the way that I would recommend the fast. And then there are other types of fasting. So there's like intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. So that's fasting for a particular time of the day, but then eating during another time. There's where you eat one day and then skip a meal the next day. So that's like every other day fasting. So there's so many different types of fasting. So I'm happy that you were specific. But yes, a water only fast. So the other part of that question was every year. Yeah, several times a year. If you really have a chronic illness and you are healthy enough because there are certain people who would not, we shouldn't do a water fast without the supervision of a physician. But if you're healthy enough to do a water fast, but you have chronic conditions that you're trying to address, every quarter, I think would be great. And to get the true like longevity benefits, you want that fast to be 72 hours. But anyway, that's a whole other talk. But if you want me to talk about fasting, all things Des, I could do that in a whole other talk. You know, I get into my little in my spiel. But yeah, so I mean, again, these are the I love getting questions like this because
there's another question.
Yeah. Oh wait, so do you have recommendations for eliminating sugar?
Well, does she?
Do I? Okay, so just so you guys know, when I started this work, I originally started with a program that I'm actually releasing. I mean, I created the program in 2012. I'm releasing the program next month, Chatela. Is that when we're doing it? So it's called Cocaine in My Cookies. And it's a sugar detox. So when I started teaching at Stanford in the Health Prevention Center, and I started teaching this course called Cocaine in My Cookies, which is a sugar detox. And I started it because I did want to help people change their behaviors, but I realized that so many people had food addictions, and specifically sugar addiction. And so, yes, I have a whole program coming out this month that will help you with eliminating sugar. Talk about the dangers, if any, of fruit. So that's another question. So the thing about fruit is the thing about sugar is sugar is sugar is sugar is sugar. It doesn't matter the types of sugar. Well, I'm not going to say that. Your body responds to sugar pretty uniformly. I mean, there are some differences between glucose and fructose, but I'm not going to get into that now. But the idea here is that sugar drives up a hormone called insulin, and insulin is very pro-inflammatory and can cause fat storage. So if you, it's not the sugar per se, it's the dose of sugar. And so oftentimes the way we are exposed to sugar in our current environment, we get too much, we get toxic doses of sugar. But if you stuck to natural forms of sugar like fruit, you would be pretty much okay, with the exception of the fact that because our bodies have had such high toxic levels of sugar over time, even fruit can trigger adverse reactions, meaning spikes in insulin, which causes spikes in inflammation. And so really understanding, number one, how your body processes sugar, and you can do that with a glucose monitor. So a continuous glucose monitor. I have a post on that in my Instagram feed. But you can use a glucose monitor to see how your body actually responds to fruit. The other thing is that fruit juices have this rap of being healthy when they're in fact just condensed sugar. So that I do think is a danger, because oftentimes people think they're doing their body good by drinking juice, even if it's fresh squeezed juice, right? They're juice fast out there, and there's all this talk around juicing. And juicing can be really toxic, particularly if you don't have the body, if your body has been exposed to high levels of sugar in other ways. So yeah, fruit is healthy, but I think really needs to be considered on an individual basis and understand your response to sugar, and maybe for a short period of time to remove the foods that spike insulin. So the ones that are high in sugar, like pineapples and bananas and things of that nature. Okay, so another question. So many people promote Dr. CMOS. Okay, yes. Substances. Is this good for us as they make them seem? Okay, so I have to give this caveat. So I'm a physician, and I'm a physician who does integrative medicine, and so I look at research, right? And I have a very toward relationships with research, because I also know that there isn't always great research when it comes to food and supplements. But if there is evidence for food and supplements out there, then I will look at it. So I looked for CMOS, right? I looked for the benefits of CMOS. Are there any benefits? And there are a few studies, not really great studies, that look at CMOS and their benefits. The reason why I have a toward relationship with studies is because on one hand, I want to see the study. So there is So we're not just talking out of our ass, right? Because that's what a lot of people on social media, they're just making shit up and then they post it and then people believe it, it's gospel. And that can be dangerous because then you have a whole bunch of people out here spending all of their money on things that don't necessarily work. On the other hand side of that, there's also this idea that if it doesn't have research, then it doesn't work. And I don't believe that either, right? Because I also know that research isn't always done in things like that can't be monetized, right? So CMOS you can get, fairly, you can get from anywhere, right? It's not a drug that has restrictions that could be really monetized in that way. So I do believe that there's absolutely some benefits to CMOS, but I would not go as far as to thinking it's a miracle drug the way that many sort of natural practitioners or people who talk about CMOS. There just isn't enough evidence to say definitively the way that I see people promote it as like a definitive answer for X, Y, and Z. But I'm not against it. I'm a person, when I think about supplements, I take a very holistic approach to that. Like, listen, let's try out a supplement. Let's see how your body feels. And let's see if it makes a difference. And if it does in you, then I'm not going to tell you that to not use it, but I also am not going to tell you to keep buying something or investing in something that isn't having an effect on your body. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, wait. So thank you, Des, for getting the follow. Okay, I juice every day and 1 meal a day. Am I'm doing it all wrong? Yeah, I mean, no, you're not doing it all wrong. But I mean, I think there's a lot of things to be considered, right? So, what are you juicing, right? So, are you just juicing fruit, or are you juicing a variety of vegetables? Are you including some sort of fat in that, right? Because you want to blunt the effect of the sugar in the fruit. Are you including like seeds and nuts in it? Are you using a protein powder? So there are ways to do like shakes and smoothies. I'm more of a smoothie person than I am a juicer. And when I do juice, I'm very specific about the things that I juice. So like I'll juice celery. I will juice ginger. I love a ginger juice. I'll juice oranges and, well, lemons more than the oranges. So there are certain things that I would juice, and then there are certain things that I wouldn't. So, for example, I have a lot of people who are like constantly juicing nothing but fruit. And do I think that's a good idea? No, I don't, because it's the effect that it has on your blood sugar can be damaging. But is it better than, let's say, drinking Kool-Aid? Yeah, right. So there are levels here. So from that standpoint, I don't think you're doing it all wrong, but I do think finding a balance between eating real food, whole food that you actually have to chew, is more beneficial than juicing. So even fresh squeezed juice is just a condensed sugar. Yes, that is true, Shanita. It's condensed sugar. So this is the way I describe it to people. If you needed to eat an orange, how many oranges could you eat in one sitting? Maybe 2. Maybe if you had one of those really small ones, but let's talk about like a regular orange, like an actual orange. There goes my son. You could probably get 2, maybe 3 in. But if you were to have a glass of orange juice, that's 5, 6, 7 oranges. So you can imagine our bodies weren't necessarily made to digest that much sugar at one time. And you've removed the fiber. So you're not doing anything to blunt the effect of the sugar in your body. So from a scientific standpoint, no, I would not consider even fresh squeezed juice as like a health food. But what I do tell people is, I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know when people who are watching this were born, but when I was growing up, they used to have juice glasses. They were 4-ounce glasses. I tell people, if you're going to have juice, drink juice in a 4-ounce glass. Like, don't do a water glass full of juice, because now at that point you are just overdoing the sugar. So thank you for responding to those questions, Chatela. One last question. It's all good. All things Des. I'm all down for the questions. What does your diet consist of? Haha. Yes. Okay. So I have some general like guidelines for how I eat. And then around those guidelines, you can make adjustments, right? So what I call is sort of your core food plan. So that core food plan is always going to be whole food based, right? So I'm thinking about, is this food processed or is it whole? And a whole food I describe as, was it a plant? Did it graze on plants? So that would be animal protein. Or was it found in the sea, right? So those things, that's how I conceptualize whole food. So that's vegetables, protein, animal protein or plant protein, and fish, right? And fruit. And then I guess also fats. Can you consider seeds and nuts, right? So that's what I eat. If I find it in the grocery store and it's in the middle aisles, right? If it's in a box or something like that, then that is typically a processed food. If it is like something pre-made, that's more processed. So I limit my processed foods to a minimum. I'm human. I love a pizza, right? There are going to be times when I have things that aren't necessarily a whole food, but I would say 85% of the foods that I eat, I try to stick to whole foods. So that's a general rule. A lot of people ask me, they assume that I'm vegan because apparently everybody thinks that if you're vegan, then you're healthy. But I even tell my husband, I was telling him this weekend, like he goes to a vegan restaurant and I keep saying, this is where people mess up, is that they make assumptions that certain things are just by definition healthy. And there is a healthy way to eat vegan, but there's also an unhealthy way to eat vegan because vegan can tend to have a lot of processed foods. Because they're trying to make vegetables taste like meat, and that, or it's not even a vegetable. Maybe it's something that was manufactured in a lab. So I do eat meat. There are a lot of reasons why I eat meat, but the majority of my meals don't contain meat. So that's another principle is that I eat mostly plants. So whole foods, mostly plants. The third thing is understanding my food sensitivities, right? So for me, I am sensitive to gluten. I'm also a little sensitive to dairy. But dairy, I cheat on quite a bit. But I try to keep gluten out of my diet because it doesn't make me feel well when I eat it. And it causes me to have brain fog. So for me, that's a food sensitivity. Everybody's food sensitivities are separate, are different. So that's my third rule, right? So whole food, mostly plants, know your food sensitivities. And then healthy fats. So I have to bring this up because we spent 50 years telling people that fat was bad. So I also am very intentional about having healthy fats in my diet. So if I have a salad, it's always going to have some form of fat on it. It's going to have nuts, seeds, olive oil, something that gives me healthy fats. I want to balance my omegas. So healthy fats is another rule. And then low glycemic. Now this gets a little technical, but really I'm looking at foods that aren't going to cause my blood my insulin levels to rise. So I'm looking at certain types of grains. So I try to avoid refined grains or food like tons of sugar in one sitting. So that's another rule, is just low glycemic. And that really just, for me, comes down to like not having a lot of processed grains. So that would cut out things like cereals or big glasses of juice, right? So I follow these principles. And then you can do that as a vegan. You can do that as a vegetarian. You can do that as a paleo. You can do that as keto. So I'm agnostic to like all of the different types of food, like trends. I believe you eat the way that I just described, a core food plan, and then you can adjust from there. But if you get those things down, then you're going to be doing your body pretty good. I hope that answered the question. And I think you were asking spinach, ginger, oranges, seeds, and fruit. I think, is that what you're saying? If you put it in a smoothie, I think that looks good. And I put ginger in everything. All right. So let's see. Is it normal?
One more question.
Yeah. Okay. Is it normal for your body to reject meat and chicken? I'm tired of meat. I don't eat beef and pork anymore, but I'm sick of chicken, etc. Yes. So that's another good point. So that has to go to your food sensitivities again, right? So yes, everybody's different. So like if anybody tells you that there's one way to eat, and like everybody should be vegan or everybody should be vegetarian or everybody should do keto, it just depends. And And then it also goes down to your food preferences. And I do have some nuance that I'm not going to get into today about food preferences, but we can shift our food preferences. But again, if you don't, like, I went through a whole spell where I was like, I'm not eating chicken. I'm so sick of chicken. And chicken is like overly processed most of the time. So yeah, you know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. The way I think about meat though, is that I always think quality over quantity. So you want to get high quality forms of meat. Instead of just eating tons of meat. So most people fill their plate up with meat and not enough vegetables. So I usually tell people more vegetables, even if you're going to eat meat, have it as an accoutrement, as a, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like not a seasoning, but you could use meat as a seasoning, but still not have meat, you know, like people make collard greens and they put it in meat. So there are different ways to use it, but I as an accessory, maybe that's the word I'm looking for. So meat doesn't have to be the main meal, right? But if your meat isn't going to be your main meal, then you've really got to think really hard about where your protein source is coming from. And that can be challenging. One of the reasons why I think veganism and vegetarianism can be challenging if you don't know how to do it right. Because if you're just doing beans and your insulin levels are already a mess, then you could be causing diabetes, right? In your nice, healthy vegan meal. So you have to know where your protein sources are coming from if you're being vegan or vegetarian. It's not impossible. Obviously, hundreds of thousands of people do it. But you just got to make sure that you're balancing it correctly. And that's why at People's Functional Medicine, we have a health coach, Chatela, who helps people figure that out, right? So you're not expected to do it all by yourself. So yay, okay, so there's just one last question I'll answer it and then we'll be done. All right, insulin spike equals inflammation. To monitor insulin, we need a glucose monitor. That's one way to do it. And I think it's the easiest way to do it. So you get a continuous glucose monitor. In America, you have to have a prescription for that. Your insurance won't cover it unless you are a diabetic on insulin. But they cost like somewhere between like $70 to $120 for a month. And so I don't think you need to do a continuous glucose monitor like every single day of every single month of every single year. Do it for 1 month, 30 days. And it will tell you a lot about the foods that you're eating, how your body responds. And yeah. So I appreciate all of the questions today.
Yeah, those are good.
If you're interested in learning more about People's Functional Medicine, we have a program that actually launches tomorrow. It's called the Black Women's Guide to Health, Hormones, and Longevity. If you want more information about that, Chatela, can you put that in the chat? And if you're interested in working with me and Chatela on a more one-on-one basis, we also have a membership that you can get more information at drnicolepeoples.com. That's DRNICOLEPEOPLES.com. That is my the website for People's Functional Medicine, and the website for the program, if you're interested in joining, helps you do all of these things, is the Black Women's Guide. That's BLKWOMENSGUIDE.com, blackwomensguide.com. So I appreciate everybody who showed up today, and we will be back next week, Tuesday, for our next live.
Yeah.
So get
also, although the Black Women's Guide is launching next week, like we said, cocaine in my cookies is coming too, and that's everyone.
Yeah.
So that's everyone. This was valuable information, men, women, whatever. Stay tuned, because that's going to be like just as valuable. Like this kind of stuff that we talked about will be in that course. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.